They all believed she was just another maid. Quiet, invisible, the kind of woman nobody looked at twice. Every morning, she scrubbed marble floors worth more than most people's homes. She served breakfast without speaking. She lowered her eyes whenever the family argued. And every night, she wrote everything down. Every lie, every secret, every whispered conversation behind closed doors. Because that's exactly what she had been paid to do. The billionaire who owned the mansion had hired her for one reason: spy on my family. He trusted no one. Not his glamorous wife. Not his ambitious son. Not his charitable daughter. Not even the younger brother who had stood beside him for 30 years. He believed someone inside his own home was waiting for him to die. So he created the perfect trap. He hired a complete stranger. Someone no one would ever suspect. For 6 months, the maid watched everything. Until one rainy evening, she opened a locked door she had been ordered never to enter. What she found inside wasn't evidence against the family. It was something far worse. A secret so horrifying, it made her question everything the billionaire had ever told her. Suddenly, the people she had been spying on no longer looked like villains. The billionaire did. Before the week was over, one member of the family would disappear. Another would be arrested. And the richest man in the city would beg for forgiveness no amount of money could ever buy. But the most shocking part, the maid wasn't the only person secretly watching that family. Someone had been watching her too. And by the time she realized it, there was no turning back. Before we uncover the truth, hit that like button and subscribe, because by the end of this story, you'll realize nothing in this family was ever what it seemed. It all began 6 months earlier, long before the locked door, long before the disappearance, long before anyone realized the greatest threat inside Blackthorn Manor wasn't a member of the family. It was the man who owned it. The mansion sat alone on a cliff overlooking the sea. From the outside, it looked like paradise. Glass walls, perfect gardens, luxury cars lined up like trophies. Inside, it felt like a prison. No one laughed. No one trusted anyone. Even the silence felt rehearsed. Every room had cameras. Every hallway had motion sensors. Every employee signed agreements that prevented them from speaking about anything they witnessed inside those walls. People often joked that working there was like living inside a palace built by paranoia. The joke wasn't funny. The owner of the estate was Alistair Voss, one of the richest men in the country. He had built an international empire from almost nothing. To the public, he was generous. Hospitals carried his name. Schools praised his donations. Television hosts called him a visionary. But behind the gates of Blackthorn Manor, his own family rarely smiled in his presence. They didn't fear losing their inheritance. They feared him. 3 months earlier, Alistair received an anonymous package. There was no return address, no fingerprints, only a small black envelope. Inside, one sentence: the person who will destroy you already eats at your table. Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. Most people would have dismissed it. Alistair didn't. He read the note 27 times. Then he burned it. That same night, he canceled every business meeting, fired his longtime head of security, installed a completely new surveillance system, and made one decision that would change every life inside Blackthorn Manor forever. He would spy on his own family. But not with detectives. Not with private investigators. He knew they would be recognized. Instead, he searched for someone the family would never notice. Someone invisible. Hundreds of applicants came. Experienced housekeepers, professional assistants, former military personnel. He rejected everyone. Then, a quiet woman walked into his office wearing a faded blue dress. She carried no resume, only a small folder containing a recommendation from an elderly priest. Her name was Elena Marrow, 32 years old, soft-spoken, recently widowed, no children, no criminal record, no social media, no surviving relatives. To everyone else, she looked ordinary. To Alistair, she looked perfect. He asked only one question. If everyone around you was lying, how would you know? Elena thought for several seconds, then answered quietly. I would watch what they do when they think no one is watching. For the first time that week, Alistair smiled. You start tomorrow. The contract she signed was unlike anything she had ever seen. She wasn't hired merely to clean. Every evening, she was required to write a detailed report. Who argued? Who whispered? Who entered forbidden rooms? Who cried? Who lied? Who seemed afraid? Every tiny detail mattered. She was forbidden from telling anyone she worked directly for Alistair. Not even the head butler. If anyone asked, she was simply another maid. Nothing more. During her first week, she learned the house had 4 permanent residents besides Alistair. His wife, Celeste Voss, elegant, always perfectly dressed, always smiling, but never with her eyes. Every morning, she played classical piano. Every evening, she locked herself inside the greenhouse for exactly 1 hour. No one knew why. Not even the servants. Their son, Rowan Voss, 34. Brilliant, cold, the future heir to the empire. He treated everyone like employees, including his own mother. Every phone call ended with him checking over his shoulder, as if someone might be listening. Their adopted daughter, Nadia Voss, 27. She spent most of her time running charitable foundations. She appeared kind. Too kind. The kitchen staff adored her. Yet, every Thursday, she secretly left the estate without security. She always returned before sunrise. No explanation. Then there was Alistair's younger brother, Gideon Voss, the only person who still spoke to Alistair without fear. Or so it seemed. He drank too much, laughed too loudly, and constantly joked that one day someone in this family would poison them all. Everyone laughed, except Alistair. For weeks, Elena quietly observed them. She polished silver while they argued over millions. She dusted paintings while conversation stopped the moment she entered. Sometimes, she caught them staring at one another across the dinner table, like strangers waiting for someone else to make the first mistake. It wasn't a family. It was a battlefield pretending to be a home. Every night, she delivered handwritten reports to Alistair. He never thanked her. He simply read every page, circled names, asked strange questions. What did Rowan do after the argument? Did Celeste cry before or after entering the greenhouse? Was Nadia wearing gloves again? Did Gideon drink from my glass? He remembered every tiny detail. Nothing escaped him. Then, something happened that wasn't in any report. One night, Elena was cleaning the west hallway when she heard a little girl's laughter. She froze. There were no children living in Blackthorn Manor. The laughter echoed again. Soft, playful, coming from behind the walls. She followed the sound. It stopped outside an old wooden door, hidden behind velvet curtains. A door unlike every other in the mansion. No electronic lock. Only heavy chains. And a rusted padlock. A faded brass plaque hung above it. It read, "Do not enter." She reached toward the handle. Before her fingers touched it, a cold voice spoke behind her. "If you value your life." Elena turned sharply. It was the elderly groundskeeper. His face had gone completely pale. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the door. Then he whispered something that sent a chill through her entire body. "You're not the first maid he hired." And none of the others stayed long enough to tell anyone what they found. The old man walked away, leaving Elena alone in the silent hallway. Her heart pounded. Questions flooded her mind. How many maids had come before her? Why had no one ever mentioned them? And what could possibly be hidden behind a locked door? That terrified a man who had worked on the estate for decades. Elena looked back at the chains. For the first time since arriving at Blackthorn Manor, she wasn't afraid of the family. She was afraid of the house itself. Elena didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the old groundskeeper's warning. "You're not the first maid he hired." She replayed those words over and over until sunrise. Who were the other maids? Why had they all disappeared? And why did no one in the mansion ever mention them? The silence itself began to feel like part of the secret. The next morning, breakfast was unusually quiet. Alistair sat at the head of the table, reading the financial news. Celeste poured tea with steady hands. Rowan answered emails without looking up. Nadia stared out the window as rain tapped softly against the glass. Gideon joked about the weather. No one laughed. Then, without warning, Alistair slowly lowered his newspaper. He looked directly at Elena. "You look tired." The room fell silent. "I didn't sleep well, sir." His eyes narrowed. People usually lose sleep when they're carrying secrets. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Elena forced herself to remain calm. She lowered her head and continued serving breakfast. Inside, her heart was racing. That evening, she searched for the old groundskeeper. She found him trimming dead roses near the edge of the estate. His name, she learned, was Silas. He had worked for the Voss family for 41 years, longer than anyone else. When Elena asked about the missing maids, Silas immediately stopped working. His weathered hands trembled. "You shouldn't ask questions. I need answers." "No." His voice cracked. "You need to leave." He looked toward the mansion, making sure no one was watching. Then he leaned closer. "I've buried 3 dogs for this family. I've buried 2 horses. And..." His voice almost disappeared. "I've buried things I was never supposed to see." Elena felt her stomach tighten. "What things?" Silas shook his head. "I've already lived too long." He turned away, ending the conversation. But just before walking off, he whispered one final sentence. "If you ever hear children laughing again, run." That night, the laughter returned, faint, almost playful, echoing through the empty corridors. Elena followed it. Again, it led to the chained door. Only this time, something was different. The padlock was gone. The chain still hung from the handles, but someone had unlocked it. The door stood open, just a few inches. A cold draft drifted into the hallway. She hesitated. Every instinct told her to walk away. Instead, she gently pushed the door open. The room was covered in white sheets. Dust floated through the air. Broken toys lay scattered across the wooden floor. A tiny rocking horse slowly rocked back and forth. Although there was no wind, Elena froze. At the far end of the room, she found dozens of framed photographs. Children, boys and girls of different ages. Some smiling, some crying, some standing beside Alistair himself. Each frame carried only a first name. No dates, no explanations, just names. The oldest photograph looked nearly 30 years old. The newest, less than a decade. Then she noticed something else. One frame had been removed recently. The dust around it was still disturbed. Someone had taken a photograph. Recently. Very recently. As Elena stepped closer, she heard footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming down the hallway. She quickly hid behind an old wardrobe. The door creaked wider. Someone entered carrying a lantern. It wasn't Alistair. It was Celeste. The elegant woman looked nothing like herself. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hands were shaking. She walked directly to the empty space where the missing photograph had been. Then, she began crying. Not softly, violently, like someone carrying decades of guilt. Between sobs, she whispered words Elena could barely hear. "I'm so sorry. I couldn't save you. I should have told the truth." Elena's breath caught. The truth about what? Before she could hear more, another voice echoed from the hallway. "Celeste." It was Alistair. Instantly, Celeste wiped away every tear. Her expression became cold again, as if the crying had never happened. She walked out without another word. Alistair remained in the doorway, standing perfectly still. He slowly scanned the room. His eyes stopped, directly on the wardrobe where Elena was hiding. Silence. 1 second. 5 seconds. 10. Elena barely breathed. Then, Alistair quietly smiled. "You can come out now." Her blood turned cold. Slowly, she stepped from behind the wardrobe. "I'm sorry, sir. I was cleaning." "You weren't cleaning." His voice remained calm. "You were looking for answers." She expected him to fire her. Instead, he did something even stranger. He handed her a brass key. "This opens every locked room in the mansion. Except one." He leaned closer. "If my family ever discovers you have this, they'll kill you before I ever get the chance." Then, he simply walked away, leaving Elena alone, holding the key. From that moment, everything changed. Doors that had always been locked now opened. Inside one room, she found shelves filled with family journal dating back 40 years. Another contained surveillance monitors recording every corner of the mansion. Even bedrooms, even private offices. Alistair hadn't just been watching his family. He had been recording every second of their lives. For years. Then, she entered a small archive room. Hundreds of labeled files filled the shelves. One folder immediately caught her attention. It had her name on it. Billionaire Manor. Her hands began trembling. She had worked there for barely 3 weeks. Why did he already have an entire file about her? Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Her apartment, the grocery store she visited, the cemetery where she mourned her late husband, even pictures taken years before she ever applied for the job. One photograph made her knees buckle. It showed her husband, standing beside Alistair, smiling. The picture had been taken nearly 8 years earlier. But Alina had never, ever seen Alistair before accepting this job. Or so she believed. Attached to the photograph was a handwritten note. Subject accepted the position exactly as predicted. Predicted. Her vision blurred. This wasn't a job. She hadn't been hired by chance. She had been chosen, long before she ever knew Alistair Voss existed. Terrified, Alina rushed out of the archive room. She had to leave. She didn't care about the money anymore. She reached the front gate, only to find it locked from the outside. The security guard looked at her with pity. "I'm sorry. No employee is allowed to leave the estate without Mr. Voss's written permission." Alina turned slowly toward the mansion. From the highest balcony, Alistair stood watching her, perfectly still, as though he had known exactly what she would do. Then, he raised one hand, not to wave, but to silently remind her. She wasn't working in Blackthorn Manor anymore. She was trapped inside it, just as panic began to overwhelm her. Her phone vibrated. One message from an unknown number. There was no greeting, no signature, only one sentence. "Don't trust Alistair. I'm one of the maids who escaped." Alina's heart nearly stopped. She looked around desperately. Someone inside or outside the estate knew who she was. And if the message was true, the story she'd been told from the beginning was a lie. Alina read the message again. "Don't trust Alistair. I'm one of the maids who escaped." Her fingers trembled so violently she almost dropped the phone. She looked around the estate. The security cameras, the guards, the servants walking through the gardens. Who had sent it? And more importantly, how did they know she was trapped? Before she could reply, the message disappeared. Not deleted. Erased. As if it had never existed. A second later, her phone shut itself off. The battery had been almost full. That night, for the first time since arriving at Blackthorn Manor, Alina didn't write her report. Instead, she hid inside the laundry room, trying to make sense of everything. Someone knocked gently on the door. 3 slow taps. She froze. The door opened. It wasn't Alistair. It was Nadia, the adopted daughter. She quietly stepped inside and locked the door behind her. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Nadia whispered, "He's watching us." She looked directly at the smoke detector above them. It wasn't a smoke detector. It was another camera. Nadia calmly removed a small music box from her pocket. She wound the handle. Soft music filled the room. Only then did she continue speaking. The music scrambles the microphones. Alina stared in disbelief. "How do you know that?" Nadia smiled sadly. "Because I've been surviving in this house longer than you." Nadia didn't look frightened anymore. She looked exhausted, like someone who had spent years pretending to be someone else. "I know about the reports." Alina's face drained of color. You do." He wanted me to. What? He wanted me to notice you. Nothing made sense. Nadia stepped closer. Alistair never hides anything by accident. If he wants you to find something, it's because there's something else he doesn't want you to find. Then Nadia said something that changed everything. Do you know why he adopted me? Alina shook her head. Nadia's eyes filled with tears. Neither do I. Silence. I don't know who my real parents are. I don't know where I came from. I don't even know if Nadia is my real name. She laughed bitterly. Every document about my childhood begins the day I entered this house. It's like I never existed before then. Alina felt a chill. The photographs, the children's room, the missing picture, the files. What if the room wasn't filled with Alistair's memories? What if it was filled with stolen lives? Nadia reached into her coat. She handed Alina an old silver key. This doesn't open doors. What does it open? The truth. Tomorrow night, go to the greenhouse. Exactly at midnight. Whatever you see, don't make a sound. Then Nadia quietly walked away, leaving Alina alone once again. The following day, everything felt different. Rowan barely spoke. Celeste couldn't stop glancing toward the greenhouse. Even Gideon seemed unusually nervous. At dinner, a wine glass suddenly shattered in Alistair's hand. No one moved. No one asked if he was hurt. Blood slowly dripped onto the white tablecloth. Alistair smiled. You know, it's fascinating. The guilty always become uncomfortable before they're accused. Every face around the table changed. Fear, not guilt. Fear. Alina suddenly realized something. Nobody feared exposure. They feared Alistair. Just before midnight, she slipped quietly into the greenhouse. The enormous glass structure was filled with rare flowers. Moonlight poured through the ceiling. Everything was silent. Then, a hidden section of the stone floor slowly opened. Alina held her breath. A staircase emerged beneath the greenhouse. Someone climbed up. It was Celeste. Moments later, Rowan appeared. Then Gideon. Then Nadia. One by one, the family secretly gathered underground. Not one of them noticed Alina hiding behind the orchids. What she heard next changed the entire story. Rowan slammed his fist against the table. We're running out of time. Celeste whispered. She's already finding things. Gideon looked terrified. We should have told her the truth weeks ago. Alina's heart raced. Were they talking about her? Then Nadia spoke. If she keeps believing Alistair, she'll die just like the others. The room fell silent. Just like the others. The words echoed in Alina's mind. There had been others. The Maids. If you're still with me, you're about to witness the biggest twist in this entire story. Before we continue, take a second to like this video and subscribe. It really helps the channel bring you more stories like this. Now, let's uncover what those photographs were hiding. Gideon unlocked a metal case. Inside were photographs, not of children, of women. Every woman wore the same maid's uniform Alina now wore. 23 photographs. Across each face, a single red line had been drawn. Except one. The last photograph. It was Alina. Untouched. Not crossed out. Yet, Celeste burst into tears. I can't watch another innocent woman die. Alina's breathing became shallow. Die. Nadia suddenly stood. We end this tomorrow. No more lies. No more pretending. I'm telling her everything. Before anyone could answer, the greenhouse lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then, a voice echoed through hidden speakers. Calm, cold, unmistakable. Alistair, I was wondering how long it would take. The lights flickered back on. Every member of the family looked horrified. Not because they were caught meeting. Because they knew. He had been listening the entire time. The hidden door at the far end slowly opened. Alistair walked in alone, slowly clapping. Wonderful. After all these years, you've finally decided to trust someone. He looked around the room, then directly toward Alina's hiding place. You can stop hiding now. She stepped out. There was no point pretending anymore. No one looked surprised, except Alina, because every member of the family already knew she had been there. She was the only one who hadn't realized. This meeting had been staged. Alistair smiled. I believe introductions are overdue. He turned toward his family. They've been trying to convince you that I'm the monster. Then he looked back at Alina. But they forgot to tell you why they're so desperate. He reached into his coat and placed a thick medical file on the table. Across the front, Alina saw her late husband's name, Daniel Marrow. Her knees nearly gave way. What is this? Alistair calmly opened the file. Your husband didn't die in a random car accident. He died because he found something inside this family. Alina felt the room spin. You knew my husband. I knew him very well. He worked for me. No, Alina whispered. You're lying. Alistair slid one final photograph across the table. It showed Daniel, standing beside Gideon, beside Celeste, beside Nadia, and beside Alistair, all smiling. The photograph had been taken inside Blackthorn Manor. 2 weeks before Daniel died. Tears streamed down Alina's face. Everything she believed about her husband's death was collapsing. Then Alistair delivered the sentence that shattered what was left of her world. He wasn't spying for me. He was spying on me. Silence consumed the underground chamber. No one spoke. No one moved. Then, Nadia whispered 3 words that made everyone's blood run cold. He's coming back. Every face turned toward her. Even Alistair's confidence disappeared for the first time. Alina looked around in confusion. Who? Nadia stared toward the darkness at the end of the underground tunnel. A single tear rolled down her cheek. The one we buried. At that exact moment, a loud knock echoed from beneath the floor. 1, 2, 3. It wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from underneath the concrete. The knocking stopped. Silence swallowed the underground chamber. No one dared breathe. Alina looked from one terrified face to another. Only minutes ago, she had believed the Voss family were her husband's killers. Now, even Alistair looked shaken. It was the first genuine emotion she had ever seen on his face. Not anger, not suspicion, fear. The knocking came again. 3 slow strikes. From beneath the concrete floor, Rowan instinctively stepped backward. Gideon dropped the lantern he was holding. Its flame rolled across the floor before dying out. Darkness wrapped itself around the room. Only the emergency lights remained. bathing everyone in a dull red glow. It looked less like a bunker and more like a tomb. Alistair walked toward the center of the room. His voice remained calm. "No one moves." Celeste grabbed his arm. "You promised me this would never happen again." He slowly pulled away. "I promised I would keep him inside." The words echoed through Alina's mind. Keep him inside. Not keep him buried. The concrete beneath their feet vibrated. A crack appeared across the floor. Then another. Dust filled the air. Alina's pulse hammered in her ears. She expected a hand or a body to emerge. Instead, the vibration stopped. Complete silence. Alistair exhaled slowly. "He knows we're here." Alina stared at him. "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he unlocked an old steel cabinet built into the wall. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes. Every tape carried a handwritten date. They stretched back almost 25 years. One tape had a label that simply read, "Confession." Alistair removed it with trembling hands. "I hoped no one would ever hear this." He inserted the cassette into an old recorder. Static filled the room. Then, a man's voice. Young, confident. It wasn't Alistair. It was Daniel. Alina recognized her late husband's voice instantly. Tears filled her eyes. If anyone is listening to this, then I've probably failed. My name is Daniel Marrow. If something happens to me, do not blame Alistair Voss. The room froze. Alina couldn't breathe. The danger isn't the man everyone fears. The danger is the man nobody suspects. The recording crackled. Daniel continued. "I've spent 14 months gathering evidence. Someone inside this family has been manipulating every one of us, including Alistair." Everyone looked at one another. Nobody spoke. The tape continued. "If you're hearing this, it means I've finally found the proof. The only person who knows where I've hidden it is..." The recording suddenly stopped. The tape had been ripped. The final sentence was missing. Alina burst into tears. "My husband knew." Alistair quietly nodded. "He was closer to the truth than anyone." "Then why didn't you save him?" His expression broke. "For the rest of my life, I'll never forgive myself for arriving 2 minutes too late." Before Alina could answer, the emergency lights suddenly went out. Every monitor in the bunker switched on at once. Hundreds of surveillance feeds flickered across the walls, but none showed the mansion. Every screen displayed the same location. The old nursery. The room behind the chain door. A small figure appeared on one of the monitors. A child, standing perfectly still, facing away from the camera. Long dark hair. Bare feet. No movement. Alina whispered, "Who is that?" No one answered. The child slowly turned around. The screen distorted. Static. Then, nothing. Every monitor switched to a single sentence. White letters. Black background. "You lied to her." Then another sentence appeared. "Now I'm going to tell her everything." The recorder suddenly switched itself back on. A different voice began speaking. Calm. Cold. Unfamiliar. "I've waited 22 years for this night." The room fell silent. "Hello, Alistair. I've finally come home." Gideon stumbled backward. No. It can't be." Celeste covered her mouth. Nadia closed her eyes. Only Rowan whispered the name. Lucian. Elena looked around. Who is Lucian? Nobody answered. Alistair finally spoke. He's the reason this family was destroyed. The voice on the recorder laughed softly. You always tell half the story. You've been telling lies for so long. You've started believing them yourself. Then, every door inside the bunker slammed shut. Metal locks engaged automatically. The family was trapped, exactly as Elena had once been. The ventilation system came alive. A thin white mist slowly drifted into the room. Panic spread instantly. Gideon began coughing. Celeste struggled to breathe. Rowan searched desperately for another exit. Alistair remained still, almost resigned. Elena covered her mouth. Is it poison? No. Alistair answered quietly. It's sleeping gas. Who activated it? Alistair looked toward the ceiling. The only person who knows this system exists. The room began spinning. One by one, everyone collapsed. Gideon first, then Celeste, then Rowan, then Nadia. Finally, even Alistair fell to one knee. Elena fought to stay awake. Her vision blurred. The last thing she saw was a shadow standing in the open doorway. Tall, wearing a dark coat, his face hidden. The stranger walked calmly through the unconscious family, ignoring every one of them. He stopped only when he reached Elena. He knelt beside her and gently wiped the tears from her face. His voice was almost kind. So, you're Daniel's wife. Elena tried to speak. No words came. The stranger reached into his pocket and placed a silver wedding ring in her hand. It was Daniel, the same ring that had disappeared after his death. Her heart stopped. How could this man have it? The stranger smiled. You've spent 6 years believing your husband died trying to expose Alistair. He leaned closer. So did everyone else. Then he whispered the sentence that shattered everything Elena thought she knew. He wasn't murdered because he discovered the truth. He was murdered because he was about to tell Alistair the truth. Elena's eyes widened. The room faded into darkness. Just before she lost consciousness, the stranger stood up, looked directly at the unconscious Alistair, and quietly said, "Sleep well, brother." The bunker door slowly closed behind him, leaving Elena with one terrifying realization. The family hadn't been hiding from an enemy outside the mansion. They had been hiding from one of their own. Darkness. Complete darkness. The silence felt endless. Then, Elena heard someone whisper her name. Elena. She slowly opened her eyes. The bunker was empty. The gas had cleared. The emergency lights flickered weakly. Bodies were still scattered across the floor. Alistair, Celeste, Rowan, Nadia, Gideon. None of them had moved. For one terrifying moment, she wondered if they were dead. Then she heard breathing. They were alive, but unconscious. Everyone, except Alistair. His eyes were open. He was staring at the ceiling. His voice was barely audible. He wanted you to wake up first. Elena knelt beside him. Who is Lucian? For the first time, the billionaire who feared nothing began to cry. Not quietly, not with dignity. He cried like a man whose soul had carried the same burden for decades. Lucian is my older brother. Elena froze. I thought Gideon was your only brother. So did everyone else. Alistair struggled to sit upright. There were 3 of us. Lucian, myself, and Gideon. Our father loved power more than his own children. He believed only one son deserved the family fortune. So he made us compete. Every mistake was punished. Every success created another enemy. Lucian was brilliant. He was also cruel. He enjoyed watching people suffer. When he was 16, he began manipulating everyone around him. Teachers, friends, even our mother. No one ever realized. Because he never raised his voice. He simply convinced people to destroy each other. Years later, when their father died, the company was supposed to be divided equally. Instead, millions disappeared overnight. Employees vanished. Witnesses changed their stories. Evidence was planted. And somehow, every crime pointed back to Lucian. He disappeared before the police could arrest him. The world believed he had died. But he hadn't. He'd been hiding, watching, planning. For 22 years. Alina looked at Daniel's wedding ring still resting in her hand. My husband. What did he discover? Alistair closed his eyes. The truth. Daniel wasn't investigating me. He was investigating a pattern. Every tragedy connected to this family. Every accident. Every disappearance. Every anonymous letter. They all happened after someone had spoken to Lucian. He wasn't trying to kill us. He was turning us against one another. He believed the greatest revenge wasn't murder. It was making a family destroy itself. Suddenly, the bunker speakers came alive. Lucian's voice echoed calmly through the room. Excellent. You finally told her. The lights switched on. One by one, every monitor flickered to life. But this time, they weren't showing the mansion. They were broadcasting live television. Police cars surrounded Blackthorn Manor. News helicopters circled overhead. Reporters shouted into microphones. Across every screen flashed the same headline. Billionaire Alistairvoss, accused of multiple murders. Alina's heart sank. Lucian laughed. By now, the police have found every body. Alistair looked horrified. What bodies? Lucian answered immediately. The Maid's. A hidden wall inside the nursery slowly opened on every monitor. Behind it, investigators uncovered human remains. Not 1, not 2, 23. Still wearing fragments of Maid uniforms. Alina felt the room spin. She remembered the photographs. 23 women. No. Celeste whispered as she regained consciousness. No. Lucian's laughter filled the bunker. You really thought I buried them where you'd never look. Alina stared at Alistair. You said they escaped. His face collapsed. I believed they had. Lucian interrupted. You always believed exactly what I wanted. Then came the greatest revelation of all. I hired every single one of them. The room fell silent. You, Alina whispered. You hired the maids. Of course. I needed someone curious enough to search. Someone brave enough to ask questions. Someone innocent enough to become the perfect suspect. Every previous maid had unknowingly uncovered pieces of Lucian's crimes. Before they could expose him, he killed them, then manipulated every piece of evidence, until it pointed back to Alistair. Not because Alistair was guilty, but because the world already feared him. Alina's breathing became uneven. "So, you hired me?" "No," Lucian chuckled. "Your husband did." The room fell silent again. "What?" Daniel knew he was dying. "He left me a letter. It contained one request. If anything happens to me, protect Alina." I honored his wish. Alistair looked completely stunned. "You knew?" Lucian laughed. "No, you fool. I'm talking about before I killed him." The word struck Alina like a knife. She could barely breathe. Lucian continued. "Daniel discovered my identity. He confronted me. He thought he could save your precious family. So I gave him a choice. Walk away, or let Alina become my next experiment. He chose you. He sacrificed himself." Tears streamed down Alina's face. For 6 years, she had believed Daniel died in an accident. Now she knew. His final decision had been to save her life. Lucian's voice suddenly became colder. "But now, that promise has expired." Every bunker door unlocked at once. A slow mechanical click echoed through the room. "So come find me. I'll be waiting." Where every lie began. Alistair immediately stood despite his weakened body. The nursery. Everyone rushed upstairs. The mansion was completely silent. No guards. No servants. Every room had been abandoned. Only the nursery door remained open. Inside, the old rocking horse moved gently on its own. The walls had been stripped bare. The children's photographs were gone. In their place, one enormous family portrait hung above the fireplace. 3 young brothers, Lucian, Alistair, Gideon, standing beside their parents. Across the portrait, someone had written one sentence in black paint. "MONSTRS home." The rocking horse suddenly stopped. A hidden compartment beneath it clicked open. Inside lay a single envelope, addressed to Alina. She slowly opened it. Inside was Daniel's final handwritten letter. "My dearest Alina, if you're reading this, then I couldn't come home. Don't waste your life searching for revenge. Some people are already prisoners of the hatred they carry. Promise me you'll choose a different life. And if you ever meet Alistair Voss, tell him none of this was his fault. He spent years hunting the wrong monster. The real one shared his blood. I love you. Always. Daniel." Alina could no longer hold back her tears. She collapsed to her knees, holding the letter against her chest. The years of anger, the grief, the unanswered questions, finally had an answer. Not one she wanted, but the truth. Outside, police sirens echoed across the estate. Officers stormed through the gates. The nightmare was over. Or so it seemed. Weeks later, every charge against Alistair was dropped. The forensic investigation proved that the evidence had been manipulated over decades. The remains of the 23 maids were finally identified. Each family was given the truth they had waited years to hear. Blackthorn Manor was demolished, stone by stone. Its walls had hidden too many lies. Alistair donated nearly his entire fortune to the families of the victims. Not because the law demanded it, but because guilt never left him. He had spent decades searching for an enemy, without realizing the greatest danger had always worn his own face. His family name. As for Elena, she never worked as a maid again. She kept only 2 things from Blackthorn Manor: Daniel's wedding ring and his final letter. Everything else she left buried with the mansion. But this story doesn't end there. Exactly 1 year later, a detective reviewing the evidence noticed something no one else had. The security footage showed Lucian entering the estate, but it never showed him leaving. Not once. Not through the gates. Not through the tunnels. Not through the woods. They searched the ruins of Blackthorn Manor for months. Nothing. No body. No trace. No fingerprints. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Sometimes, the scariest monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones who patiently convince everyone else to become afraid of the wrong person. And somewhere, if Lucian is still alive, he's probably waiting for another family to destroy itself from within. If this story kept you guessing until the very end, let me know in the comments. At what moment did you realize Alistair wasn't the real monster? If you enjoyed this journey of secrets, betrayal, and unforgettable twists, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story will make you question everything all over again. Until then, stay curious and trust carefully.